In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, I bear witness there is no God but God, and God is the only one who has the right to be worshipped. I also bear witness that Prophet Muhammad, Prophet Jesus, and Prophet Moses are the messengers of God, and I seek refuge in Allah from the rejected Satan. So in this video, we're discussing about Imam Mahdi the Mashiach, about the Schumann resonance, which is a life force of the earth. Also, we'll be discussing how it's correlated with divine laws and commandments. Just to give, for people who haven't seen my previous videos, just to give a foundational understanding of some of my previous videos so they can better understand this one. The Lord Most High, the creator of all things, resides above the seven heavens and upon his throne above all of his creation. But as Allah says in the Quran, that he's closer to you than your jugular vein. So the essence of God is in everything. The light and spark of God is in all things, all around us, in every atom, every cell of our bodies. Has the spark of God within, has the light of God within, the essence of God. Not God itself, but the essence of God. There is nothing that exists outside of God. So we can either elevate God's energies into this world, godly energies in this world, or we can decrease them. Another important foundational piece to understand for this video is that we live in a multiverse, parallel universes, different timelines. Depending on our choices, we elevate our frequency or lower our frequency, and this will shift us into a corresponding matching universe. So if we elevate our souls through divine laws and commandments, we will elevate and increase our vibration, which is increasing the life force, godly energy into our being, into this universe, and will elevate us into a proper universe that will match the frequency. So I've been doing some experimentation, some personal experiences that how the Schumann resonance is correlated with the understanding divine laws and commandments of the Most High. I do believe these higher, well, first of all, I'm going to put the Schumann resonance in the link in the description below so you can see it for yourself. Basically, people who don't know what the Schumann resonance is, there was a man by the name of Schumann, I forget his full name, but he in the 1950s noticed that there was an energy that permeated the earth, and he called it the Schumann resonance. Now the Schumann resonance hasn't really fluctuated much since the 50s till about the end of the 79, early 80s, where it started to fluctuate and has been fluctuating ever since. And I've made a previous video discussing with a lot of other evidences that I believe that was roughly the time Imam Mahdi the Mashiach was born, as we were seeing elevated spikes of godly energies via the Schumann resonance measurements, illustrating that high levels of godly energies are permeating this earth, this universe, marking the birth of an important soul that is elevating these energies. So I recently took a break from my studies, and the Schumann resonance died down. Has been very little spikes in the last couple of weeks, and so I study every day, but it was just really light studies. Seeing what other people are talking about, getting a feel for what's going on in the world. And I've done this many times. I just take a break just to see the Schumann resonance dies down, and it always dies down after I take a break from my studies. It's not that I'm memorizing all these divine laws and commandments. I'm actually internalizing all these divine laws. I'm implementing them in my life. I'm combining them into my soul. I'm living these divine laws and commandments, and there's a difference between memorizing and living. A computer can memorize the whole Quran and Torah, but it cannot live these divine laws and commandments. So memorization is not enough, that we need to actually live and establish these divine laws in a state on this earth. And that's why I've I'm in the process of making 2 divine books of law. One book of law is going to be a Torah edition, and the other is going to be a Quranic edition of the Organization of Divine Laws and Commandments, Torah edition and Quran edition. So I'm actually working on my Quran edition right now. I'm about 30 to 40% through, and I'm going to. This is what I've been learning from recently, and every time I study it into it deeply, these Schumann resonance spikes. Particularly, it's usually I study in the evening times till nighttime for a few hours, 1 to 3 hours roughly, and then I see a little bit of a spike, and then when I do my morning prayers between 3 and 5 a.m., depending on the time of the year, I look at the Schumann resonance and I see big spikes. In that early morning times, the godly energies are more stronger. Godly energies are more permeating this universe, this earth, and it can be felt more in those early morning periods. And this is when we see lots of Schumann activity, lots of high levels of earth life force being lifted. This is the elevation of godly energies into the creation. And if we could measure our heart's energies, our mental resonances, we'll also see heightened levels as well. But I don't have the particular instruments to study it personally, but I know they exist. There's people that do study and measure these resonances. If anybody wishes to test me, I've done a lot of my own personal experiments with the Schumann resonance. I always see a correlation between studying these divine laws and the uptick in the Schumann resonance spikes. There's no way that I can prove that, but unless somebody tests me through many different tests, I'll be willing to do so if anybody so wishes to test this out. But I know through so many trials and errors that this is true. That's why I'm speaking about it now. And the Schumann resonance has spiked up the last couple of days, and that's when I started my studying. And I said it particularly gets strong in the early morning hours. So, how does this tie in with Imam Mahdi, the Mashiach? Well, Imam Mahdi, the Mashiach, as we know through divine scriptures, through the commandments of God, that the proper way to run a government or a state is through divine laws. God is the only one who has a right to judge, so we can only judge according to what Allah reveals to us, so we can stay just and righteous. So in doing so, we see through examples of King David. He was a sole king. He implemented the Torah, which were the divine laws, the commandments of God, and he had great success. This was the highest point of Jewish living was in the time of King David. And in the Muslim era, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was the spiritual leader for the Muslims, and for about 30 years after his death, there was a proper leader, Khalifa, rightly guided leader, and then this was the heightened point of the Muslim state, the divine state for God on this earth. So we have some examples. We've got the scriptures to help us lay out these divine laws and commandments. So that just gives us a basic understanding on how to establish a divine state, and by establishing divine laws and commandments of the Most High. And by doing so, we will raise the vibration of this earth, more godly energies into this earth that will elevate this whole creation, elevate this whole entire universe and the earth and everything within it. Like I said, we are all in the womb of God, we're all inside of God, and nothing exists outside of God. And as I said before, I've done lots of tests and experiments that the Schumann resonance is correlated with the understanding of these divine laws and implementation of them. So I study from my book. It's about, like I said, partly done. So it's not in any particular order. I'm going to read out some of these divine laws and commandments, and for you, the viewer, to feel them, to experience them. If you can sense more godly energy when I read them. If you want to leave me some comments and descriptions below, this will, if you do listen to them and implement them, this will help raise the godly energies of this earth. Will help. You'll see the correlations in the Schumann resonance spikes, particularly in the early morning hours. And like I said, I'll leave a description. I'll leave the site and description below so you can see for yourself. So I'm expecting to see. I'm going to be doing some more studying tonight. And I expect to see an increase in the Schumann resonance in the early morning periods. Usually I study in the evenings till night for roughly an hour or two or so. It's hard for me to study extensively all the time because these godly energies are very high, very powerful, very potent, and I can't contain it all in this. I can only contain so much in my physical vessel. It's sort of like exercise. I gotta build up, take a little bit of a break, then build up more, take a little bit of a break, build up more, so it builds my capacity for godly energies in my physical vessel and where I'm at in my spiritual ascension. So I'm going to read off some of these divine laws from my book, no in particular order, just randomized, and just feel and experience. And if you want to leave me any comments and description, feel free to do so. So Allah says in chapter 67, verse 29, "We believe and put our trust in Allah. Truth will be revealed in time." Chapter 69, verse 52, "Allah is the greatest. Glorify the name of your Lord, the Great." Chapter 69, verse 48, "The Quran is a means to rise to eminence for those who are dutiful and guard against evil." Chapter 70, verse 3, "Allah is the master of the ways of ascent, so will not solicit His grace." So Allah is the master of ascension, and that's why I solicit the grace of God for me to ascend and help creation ascend as well. Chapter 2, verse 174, "Those who hide what Allah revealed in this book and take a paltry price for it shall feed their bellies with nothing but fire. Allah will not speak to them on the day of judgment will not speak to them on the day of judgment and not treat them as pure. There awaits them a grievous judgment." Chapter 2, verse 107, "Allah alone has sovereignty of the heavens and the earth. Allah alone is the only protecting friend or helper." Chapter 2, verse 106, "Allah's message can be abrogated or abandoned and replaced with something better or the like thereof. Allah has the power to do all He will." Chapter 4, verse 136, "Maintain faith in Allah and His Messenger and in this perfect book. Those whoso denies Allah, His angels, and His messengers and the last day indeed stray far away from the truth." Chapter 6, verse 38, "All creatures are subject to divine laws. Quran is the perfect book of law, and all will be gathered to Allah." Chapter 6, verse 114 to 115, "Seek Allah as your judge. Quran is a perfect book. Quran fulfills the requirements of truth and wisdom. Do not dispute this Quran. Prophetic word of Allah is bound to be fulfilled in truth and justice. There is no one who can change His words. Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing." Chapter 10, verse 61, "Allah records all things in a plain book, to the biggest and to the smallest." Chapter 10, verse 107, "If Allah afflicts you with any harm, none can remove it. If He desires any good for you, none can stop His bounty. Great protector, ever merciful." Chapter 11, verse 1, "Allah is one, all-wise, all-aware." Chapter 11, verse 6, "Allah is all-knowing of His creatures. Allah governs everyone by clear law." Chapter 13, verse 2. Allah occupies the throne of sovereignty. Allah has made the sun and the moon subservient to humans. Allah regulates all affairs. Chapter 13, verse 15. All those in the heavens and in the earth submit to Allah alone, willing or not, and likewise their shadows in the morning and evenings, all subject to divine laws. So, as a symbolic thing in creation, that our shadows are prostrating to God from the position of the sun and the moon. Chapter 13, verse 38. All signs are from Allah. Everything has an appointed term. There is divine law to regulate it. Chapter 13, verse 39. Allah repeals what He will, and establishes and confirms what He will. Allah is the source and origin of all laws and commandments. Chapter 16, verse 44. Allah revealed clear proofs and scripture, so that you may remind mankind of the laws and commandments, so that they may ponder and reflect. Chapter 16, verse 69. Eat every fruit, follow the laws and commandments of your Lord, which have been made easy for you. And the fluid of the fruit have cure for the people, a sign for the people who reflect. So it's very important to understand not to stress our egos, not to do anything that is too difficult, that to learn these divine laws and commandments, but only implement what you find easy, and take things step by step. Chapter 16, verse 89. Allah revealed this perfect book, explaining everything, and serves as guidance and mercy, and gives good tidings to those who submit to Allah. Chapter 16, verse 90. Allah commands justice and doing good to others, forbids indecency and manifest evil and transgression. Chapter 17, verse 44. The seven heavens, the earth, and all those inhabiting them extol His glory. Everything in creation glorifies Allah with His true and perfect praise. Allah knows you best. Allah did not send the messenger to be a disposer of their affairs. Chapter 17, verse 65. Allah's true servants have no authority over them, the disbelievers, sufficient as your Lord as a disposer of affairs. Now, this is a very important verse to understand. Allah's true servants have no authority over the disbelievers, over them, the disbelievers. So we're not supposed to, as true believers, we're not supposed to focus on the disbelievers all that much. We can give them advice, guidance, give them warning, but we are not disposer of their affairs. What we need to do is establish divine laws and commandments on earth, leave the disbelievers to their own shortcomings. As Allah says, He's sufficient. Your Lord is sufficient as a disposer of their affairs, so Allah will take care of them through the law of cause and effect. Chapter 17, verse 81. Say, the truth has come and the falsehood has vanished away. Falsehood is indeed ever bound to vanish away. Chapter 17, verse 96. Allah suffices as a witness between me and you. Allah is all aware of His servants. Chapter 18, verse 49. Allah does injustice to no one ever. Every deed, big and small, is recorded. Chapter 18, verse 30 through 31. Those who believe and do deeds of righteousness should know their reward will not be lost, and whom there awaits them paradise, gardens of eternity. Chapter 20, verse 1 through 2. Allah created man perfect. Allah reveals Quran for a successful mission. 20 verses 123 through 124. Those who follow Allah's guidance shall not be lost, nor shall they be unhappy. Those who turn away from Allah's remembrance shall surely lead a straitened life, and shall be raised blind on the day of resurrection. 21 verse 105. My servants with right capacity shall inherit the land. So who shall inherit the land? The ones who have the right capacity. That is a big reason why I'm making these videos, why I'm making this book. So His servants have the right capacity to rule and inherit this earth. This world has taken the wrong path and needs to be corrected, and that will be mainly done through the believers, the rightly guided servants of God, and Imam Mahdi, the Mashiach. So I guess I'll just stop right there. I don't want to make this video too long. If you want to leave me some comments on how the energy feels, and I plan to make more videos like this, inshallah, revealing more of these divine laws and commandments so that we can ponder and reflect over. It is also a commandment of God. So I hope you enjoyed this video. You take Allah as your shield and protector alone. May Allah perfect our light, increase us in knowledge, and may we establish a divine state on this earth, inshallah, now. Peace and blessings be with you. Take care. Peace.